As we switch on our TV or connect to social media, we're constantly being brought to the attention of the violence and the hostility within our world. Take, for example, the Sandy Hook shooting, the second biggest school shooting in America, or the story of Leila Alcorn, the transgender teen who ended her own life because of the lack of acceptance for her own identity. In the face of tragedy, we are diverted from the acts of kindness that do exist in this world. Take, for example, the anonymous Good Samaritan who rushed into a burning home and almost risked his life to save a 73-year-old and lead her to safety. Or a Walmart cashier who paid a complete stranger their groceries because they were missing some money and then declined the $40 that was given to her and offered to her as an inspiration for her kindness. These real events show you that people are and can be inherently kind. Our culture just seldom emphasizes kindness in our community, but I believe that we can create a better and stronger society if by first increasing kindness, increasing tolerance, or increasing acceptance. We can all do this by just expressing compassion, a little bit more of the compassion that we already have inside of us. Now, recall the last time a person smiled at you, or the last time a person really tried their best to help you out with no expectation of favors in return. A place in which people would help you out, in a place where your friends or peers would smile at you for no good reason. Imagine if you went to a new school or a new area and people would include you in their activities to make sure that you wouldn't feel left out. And imagine a place in which the religion that I worship doesn't matter, how you dress doesn't matter, or the way you look or the way or who you like doesn't matter. A place with more inclusion and more acceptance and less judgment. I dream of a world of compassion, a world in which everyone would be treated with dignity and also equality, a place where barriers and borders of race do not exist, borders of religion do not exist, and borders of differences don't exist, a place where everyone is welcomed with sensitivity and kindness. And I believe that we can work toward this world of compassion. It's not impossible. All we have to do is just express that compassion that we do all have inside of us, and to initiate this ripple effect of selfless kind acts that can make such a big difference in this world. And so first, before we can change this world, we have to start with ourselves. And with ourselves as individuals, we can first be more open and welcoming. The issue of fitting in has been such a big issue in our schools for so many teens, and so many schools, including mine. And when we're trying to discover ourselves through high school, and when we're trying to meet new people, we find that cliques, and even ourselves, tend to exclude and push people away. We take people who aren't the same as us, and we label them different, and put them into constricting boxes. And I'm sure all of you probably had the experience of being excluded, having the feeling of being left out and feeling like you don't belong. And I know it's a terrible feeling, so we can take all these feelings and emotions and make it and change it into having a better action with it, of making sure that people in the future won't experience the kind of feelings that we are experiencing. We can create this atmosphere of more inclusion and more kindness and more acceptance, with no judgments. Starting with us, we can take a step into other people's shoes and imagine how it would feel like to be them. On December 20th, Amber Cornwell, a bully teen, posted on Facebook the night before she died. Would anyone care if she died that night? Now, bullying is such a vast and epidemic in our country, but there is hope because 50% of bullying situations stop when a person intervenes, and that is amazing. If each of us were to, and I know it does take guts to stand up to a bully or say something or grab a teacher, but if each of us were to take the initiative and at least try to take a stand against this event, then it could create such a big difference in so many people's lives. We can be the next generation game changer that could integrate this idea of compassion, this idea of kindness into our lifestyle and instill it into the rest of the world. And therefore this can maybe even solve international tensions as people now look at the perspectives of others and try to coexist peacefully in creating a more unified world. According to professor from UC San Diego, Robert Corwell, he states that if a person does a kind act to one person, that person will spread the kindness to 4 more other people. Now that is amazing. With 4 more other people being affected by this random act of kindness, they can pass on and pay it forward, the acts of kindness, and affect 60 more people. And these 16 people can affect 64 more. And although some of you may be thinking, this girl's crazy, how could a simple act of kindness change the world? But that act of kindness has changed that person's world, and that's all it takes to create a ripple effect with no logical end of ultimate kindness and compassion. Now, I remember in 1st grade, these disabled kids would sit in the front of the cafeteria, and every day, the adults who would sit with them and take care of them would always smile at us every single day and ask us if they could come and join and sit with us and just basically have a chat. And I remember that most, if not all, the people of my peers in my class, they would walk directly past them and would ignore the pleas of these adults because these children were seen as different. These children of disabilities were seen as not the same as us, and therefore we can't so-called interact with them. And so I noticed that within my peers, and I also followed with them as well. I would smile at them when I ever passed by these disabled kids, but I would never sit with them because I was scared what would other people think of me. Eventually one day though, I gathered the courage and I thought, these kids are exactly the same as us. They deserve exactly what we deserve, and they deserve the respect that everyone should have. And so I gathered up that courage and I sat with them. And as a result, my friends followed along as well. They sat with me and we were greeted with a smile that was so unimaginably heartwarming. Acts of kindness and doing kind acts, it takes guts, but it's so worth it at the end once you realize how much happiness and how much joy you can affect a person with it. And so even though it may take courage and it may take bravery, it may take time, it really makes it like an awesome impact at the end, and it really made both me and the kids feel good all together. And another way we could also spread kindness is to also through social media. Now, I don't know about you, but I almost go on Facebook like every single day, and I learned that it's a great source to spread ideas, and I realized that this could be used to also communicate this idea of compassion, of kindness. And so there's simple ways that we can help spread compassion within the social media. Ways such as leaving up a positive story that can uplift people's spirits and can shine light on the positive ones that bring out the compassion and humanity of other people. We can crowd out all those negative stories that always are constantly on our newsfeed and show that these stories of compassion and how this can inspire other people to do the same, to give back and pay it forward. Most of you are probably acquainted with the social media site Humans of New York. For those who don't know, this media site is created by Brandon Stetson, and he posts photographs and descriptions and backgrounds and stories of people across New York. And usually once a week, I would spend hours flipping through all these photos and reading through the stories of these people. And I learned that we should not judge a book by its cover. That these people, we have no idea what their background is, what they have endured, what they have suffered through their lives, and so we shouldn't judge them. We should view each other with compassion, with empathy. And so I realized that by showing and having this website, it actually creates a more altruistic feeling of empathy within the page. If you scroll through the comment section, there's absolutely almost no hate comments. And I remember seeing that it really inspired and truly inspired other people to develop this empathetic feeling of reaching out to others and truly feeling and thinking about how others would feel in those pictures. And so this is just one of the many sites that can spread compassion and spread this idea of kindness. I also remember going through another social media site of YouTube, and I stumbled across a video created by Josh Paler-Lynn about what a homeless man would do with $100. And the results were amazing. This homeless gentleman brought his $100 and bought food not only for himself, but for his homeless friends around him. Even though he had no money and no material that we have, he still shared that kindness and compassion with other people. And this inspired other people to create a fund to give Thomas, the homeless gentleman, a fresh start. And its initial goal was to gather a goal of $10,000. But by today, we have surpassed the goal up to $140,000 for Thomas to give him a fresh new start. And it just ultimately shows that the power of the internet is unimaginable. There are so many things that the internet can do, and by spreading compassion and kindness through the internet, we can reach to different parts of the world and ultimately get closer to this ideal world of compassion. Now, with regards to our community, when we think of when a community endures a crisis or natural disaster or man-made disaster, what are our initial reactions to how man would act in this scenario? My initial reaction was how men would be selfish, how they would essentially not care for other people but themselves. But research after research has concluded that during these natural or man-made disasters, these men and these people actually had more altruistic behaviors, had increased of reports of cooperation and increased reports of compassion. When these people were united for one goal, to survive, then they band together and evoked the best out of them. And even out of the worst situations, these people who had one goal in mind were able to express the best out of them. And so I learned two things from this. About one, how we all have this innate, we do all have innate kindness within us. And second, how we don't have to wait for disasters to happen. We can act now. We can instill this kindness within our world and inspire others to take a change and do something about this world. How with our community, if everyone were more compassionate, it would create a brighter and more better society where everyone were more unified and everyone were more accepted. Let's take an example for hospitals. When my great-grandmother passed away recently, I noticed about how the doctors didn't really treat my grandmother as someone's grandma or someone's mom. They just treated her as another patient or just another number. If we learn to express this compassion a little bit more, then we were able to have a much happier society and a much more content society. And so when looking back to today's world, it's hard to see the good in today. With all these shootings in the US, these bombings in the Middle East, and terrorism worldwide, we see how it seems that evil and negativity seem to submerge the good. We tend to forget the power of a simple, kind act. But when reminded of the simple, kind act, we can see how it can affect so many people in so many different lights. We all have that experience of feeling excluded, about how we don't belong. But we've also all had experiences about how someone has done a kind act toward us. And so using these experiences and using these emotions, we can finally create a better world and initiate this ripple effect of people doing kind acts one after another. Fuller once said that everyone is unique, and despite how many challenges you may go through, that you have the power to change and make a difference in someone's life. In fact, it is always one person that makes the changes in the world that matter. So be that one person. And so as the new year of 2015 starts, let us try to at least make a resolution that may work this year. And part of my resolution is to make a positive difference on other people's lives. And it's also to grow the club that I recently started, Random Acts of Kindness. On the last week of January, we plan to have a week where the whole school involves themselves and does as much kind acts as possible to create this atmosphere of more inclusion and more acceptance and more unity, to get rid of all these judgments that people have against each other, and to create a more unifying and happy atmosphere in our world. And you could do the same. You could make these random acts of kindness to other people, and that can influence them to make a difference in someone else's world. And so, at the end, we can actually water the seed of compassion that everyone has inside of them and create this culture of kindness and get closer to this world of compassion. Thank you.